Welcome to Dorks on Sports, podcast about four dorks talking about sports. My name is Daniel. Joining me, as always, is my dear friend and compatriot, Curtis Eastwood. How are you doing over there, Curtis?
I'm doing well.
What are you munching on? It looks good.
I don't know. I got hungry like 20 minutes ago, and there's Boom Chicka Pop, sweet and salt kettle corn from Costco.
Next time, send some over to me, because now I'm a little snacky. Thanks. All right. And then welcome back, Alana. Alana, of course, who was on a Las Vegas vacation. How'd it go?
It went really well. My background's Blue Man Group. We saw them. It was really nice. I had seen them in New York in a tiny little theater. So it was a different experience seeing them in Vegas in a much larger space. But the kid was delighted by it. And we had a good time overall.
Nice. Yeah. What else did you do there?
We saw O, which I thought Blue Man Group was way better than O. But I have a particular perspective on that. We went to Omega Mart, which was pretty disappointing. It was like, hey, it felt like, let's give these college students a bunch of money and see what they can do with it. And that's what they did with it. We had a couple of really good meals, one from Roy Choi's restaurant. He's the Korean food truck guy. And that was great.
That place, I went there when I was in Vegas in September. I went there as well, and
it was real good. And then Jamie Tran's restaurant, which is called Black Sheep, she was on Top Chef, and she was like front of house, and she comped our desserts because I introduced her to the kid who was a big fan of hers, and she was like tickled by meeting 8-year-old fan. So
did she make her fun little laugh?
She did. It was great. I was like, I loved it. I got a little starstruck, which is weird because that's not typically my MO.
Yeah. Las Vegas, underrated food place.
Oh, I would say it's not even underrated. I mean, there are thousands of great restaurants. All the big chefs have restaurants there.
Yeah, it's a really great food city.
Yeah.
Millie, how are you doing over there?
Oh, I am. I'm doing really well. I'm bouncing around because I'm cold. I can't have my heater on while we record, or you'd never be able to hear me. So yeah, I'm doing great. Ask me about my fantasy team.
I know. I was always. It's the one thing I have going now that the Seahawks aren't going into the playoffs. So,
So here we go. It is time. I won. I'm in the championship game. Here we go. So you all can just be rooting for the Fluffernutters.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Fluffernutters. The Nutter Fluffers.
Listen, even if I knew that the Fluffernutters wasn't your team, I'd be rooting for the Fluffernutters.
It's true. Especially, I'll have to send you all my little avatar for the Fluffernutters because it's adorable. Anyway, we killed it. I mean, for the first time in a long time, I made all the right decisions.
Nice.
I made some choices that to others might have seemed questionable, but
who did you end up starting at quarterback? Did you go with Burrow?
I did go with Joe Burrow.
There you go. That's why you did it.
On his most amazing week ever.
Yeah, and he's the real deal, right? Like he's legit.
Yeah, he's like Tom
he's gonna be franchised. Yeah.
He threw 545 yards.
It was ridiculous.
It was the craziest. It was the craziest game. It was super wonderful. And I mean, I would have been fine with Josh Allen too. So, I had a feast. All the backups that I had to play for COVID totally delivered.
Nice.
And I took the strange choice to others was probably that I took an Eagles defense that just killed it. So I had an awesome week. I also won in my consolation bracket. So I am now in the finals for the consolation with Malvolio's Revenge. And if I get that right, I can get that first round pick or take the 6th round pick if I decide to keep a 1st round pick from last year. So it's good stuff.
I like Millie. She's a fantasy football champion.
Yeah.
She knows what
Thanks
she's
for letting
doing.
me get all that out because I don't see real people in real life very often anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Stuff that no one cares about.
Okay, well, let's jump in to the podcast here. Seattle faced the lowly Chicago Bears, who, of course, were playing Nick Foles, who can be a dangerous quarterback. And Nick Foles did exactly what I was afraid Nick Foles was going to do. It ended up, the game was super frustrating for me. It ended up reminding me of that Tennessee Titans game, in week 2 or week 3 or whatever that was, which is like, in that Tennessee Titans game, I was like, well, the Tennessee Titans are good. It was a frustrating game. I'm not going to fault them too much. The Chicago Bears are not good. And what Seattle did against the Chicago Bears is what bad teams do. And I'm afraid to say it, but the Seattle Seahawks are a bad team. They do some really great things sometimes, but they're just not consistent. And when it counts, they just can't put the plays together. And I don't know. I don't recognize this team, and it's really frustrating. Unfortunately, we get the Detroit Lions next. I think the Detroit Lions might be the kind of team that the Seattle Seahawks beats up on, that we've seen, throughout this season. Their quarterback isn't a quarterback that performs especially well against the Seahawks. And, if Carlos Dunlap plays like he has the past 2 games, he could be under pressure. Curtis, what do you think? How is this game going to go? What are the keys to the game? And give me a prediction.
Oh my God. Seattle's got to run the ball. I mean, they just Russell's not right now.
And Penny is playing really well.
What's that?
And Penny is playing really well.
Penny's playing well. DJ Dallas has had, his good moments when he's been given the opportunity. Russ is a chunk play action quarterback. That's who and what he was. The prettiest throw he threw all game last week against the Bears was that
41-yard DK
dart that he threw. I actually think that this is the dart that the touchdown pass that he threw to Everett off of play.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because that was just a rope.
Yeah.
Right down the middle. I mean, the thing to DK was just, it was blown coverage where he's wide open.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's running the ball. I think if Seattle would have ran the ball all the way through the 4th quarter with the way Penny was going, they probably would have won that game. I definitely think, Russ eating that sack late in, the quarter that got him, and then, it was the kicker's job to make that kick, but yeah, it's just frustrating. I just think there's Russ needs to take a mulligan for this year. I think they need to run. And then, Goff is kind of he knows how to play against this Pete Carroll defense. So they've got to play better in coverage because Jared Goff can find the zones and the weaknesses that they expose. So I kind of think that Seattle is going to have to sort of narrowly win this one. I'm sort of thinking maybe 23-20 score. Seattle win. Yeah.
All right. Alana.
So when nothing matters anymore, I root for chaos.
Yeah.
I want to see like 9 Michael Dixon punts that land inside the 20. I want to see some weird special teams plays. I want to see kick returns for touchdowns. I want to see more fucking snow because that was the best part of the game on Sunday. Like the weather, it was just like all this chaos. I loved it. When they tackle and they slide half the way down the field, just so I just want chaos. I'm gonna watch for chaos. 35-14. I don't know.
The Seahawks?
I don't know. Chaos.
35-14.
One team is going to win 35-14.
I like it. No, that's a chaotic prediction.
Yeah, like what else have the Seahawks been this year? They have been extremely entertaining at times. The double punt is like the number one play for the season. I loved it. I want more of that.
Yeah. Yes. And their punter is like the MVP.
Oh, it's unbelievable that he's not the Pro Bowl kicker punter. Yeah, unbelievable. It's a joke.
It's an absolute joke.
Yeah. But Millie. Dallas will get to the Super Bowl and then he'll actually punt in the game.
Curtis, was 23-20 Seahawks?
Nah, I hate to stop. You know what? I'm gonna do the same thing Alana just did. I'm just gonna say 23-20, and one team is wins 23, and the other one is gonna score 20. I don't fucking know anymore. I don't know what to say. They're terrible. They just got beat by a terrible team. I can't. Yeah, no.
We're bringing you like the real incisive, well thought out content this week.
Yeah,
on the Seahawks.
I'm gonna throw down on the blog. Yeah. There's gonna be a score of 23-20. I have no idea who's gonna win this one.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like when the Seahawks have a bad team. The fans have just given up.
Jared Goff looks terrible against most
NFL competition.
Except for Seattle.
Right.
And he plays well.
But he doesn't have McVay this time, so
No, he doesn't.
I don't know.
But he's got Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
That guy, and he will bite your kneecaps.
He will.
Billy, what do you got? How's the game gonna go? What's your prediction?
Well, so here's my thing. One, I will say that game was. I fell asleep. Here's the thing. It was a beautiful, cold, wintry day here in Seattle, and the snow was just falling, and I fell asleep. And I woke up, and it was not okay. It was the fourth quarter, and it was not okay.
The game was theirs up until the fourth quarter.
I was like, what happened? But I will say this. I think it was on Friday that we found out that we were getting Nick Foles, because of course in the pod last week when we were talking about it, we're talking about getting this youngling back up. Yeah. It's gonna be funny. No, we got Nick Foles, and I think that we all had that moment of, oh well, that changes everything. I mean, if I'd known it was like, I think I said to you all in a chat, he's not Fitz magic, but he's backup magic, and there are certain quarterbacks that I don't bet against in a backup situation, especially when they have like 2 days to prepare. And he's one of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wouldn't bet on him as a starter, but Nick Foles is the best backup in the league. He's got backup magic.
Yeah.
Fitzpatrick and Foles. Like, you just don't bet against them, because they're going to beat you. So knowing that, I'm going to throw out something that I just learned about an hour ago, which is that it is looking like Jared Goff might not be playing on Sunday.
COVID?
He hurt his knee and he didn't practice, which was pretty expected. But apparently at the presser, they trotted out Tim Boyle and introduced him to the press.
That's not a good sign.
So they now believe he is the favorite to start on Sunday.
All right. I've never even heard of this guy.
I've never heard of this guy. And
all right. Well, here's the thing. You know what's going to end up happening,
Curtis? We're all football fans.
He's going to come in. He's going to put up 450 yards and 5 touchdowns, and we're going to have the new Tony Romo.
And then the Detroit wins 35-14. So I win.
It definitely points to the Chaos Bowl, but
it's going to be like Brady replacing Drew Bledsoe, and like Detroit's never going to look back after this.
Like, let's be real. What team deserves it more than Detroit?
That's a good point. That's a fair point.
You know what? I won't be upset at all if Detroit wins this game. I'm just going to say it straight up. Like, it's like, oh, good for them.
Yeah.
And as an avid reader of 12th Life, I will say that I believe you, Curtis. He's not mad. He's not going to be mad. He isn't mad anymore. He's just not mad.
All right.
Useless emotion.
I'm a little maddening, but like.
So I'm actually going to pick the Seahawks to win this one.
Good.
Just for fun, and because I think it's going to be this Tim guy. So I think against Tim guy, we might actually win a game. So I'm going to take the Hawks 21-13.
All right. I also think they're going to take this one. I think, we've seen the Seahawks pummel bad teams. And what I was afraid of with Chicago is that I don't think Chicago is necessarily like an awful team. I think Chicago is a great quarterback away from being a contender. Detroit, on the other hand, not so much. I think the Seahawks are going to want revenge, and I think they're going to take it out on Detroit. I think the offense is going to score some points. I think it's going to be 30-17.
Nice. That'd be fun to see.
I hope so. We'll see.
You were right this last week when all of us were picking Seattle. You were the one that's saying now the Bears.
Chicago is the kind of team that gives Seattle fits.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And they're running back. Montgomery. I like him.
He's tough.
Yeah, he's tough.
Yeah, they are getting DeAndre Swift back.
He's
Detroit
good back.
is, yeah.
He's good back.
So that'll be an interesting thing to see on Sunday as well.
All right. I want to, we're going into a new year. This is the last Dorks on Sports of 2021. And so going into 2022, since the Seahawks are not going to the playoffs this year, I want to do our wish for what the Seahawks will do in their next season, 2022. Things we'd like to see, players we'd like them to sign, like front office moves we'd like them to make. Curtis, give me some 2022 Seahawks wishes.
Okay, here's my 2 wishes. I wish for Russell Wilson to realize that he can achieve all of his legacy goals if he just embraces a run heavy offense in which he is a play action quarterback, because that is what he is best suited to do, in my opinion. I don't like this quick game stuff. I don't like peppering it around. It just doesn't play to his strengths. And I think if he could do that, if Carroll can convince him to embrace that, I think we can see a huge bounce back year next year for Russell Wilson. And then on the flip side, I would love for Pete Carroll to come to terms that he has no idea how to build an offensive line. He just doesn't.
Yeah, it's been 10 years.
He finds people off the scrap heaps to play center. The whole weird offseason thing where Russ publicly complained about the offensive line and they did nothing to upgrade center at all.
Yeah,
it was a hard watch this year, and
which was their biggest need.
I think
on the offensive line,
Carroll needs to go out and instead of spending, $5 million on Kerry Hyder and $5 million on Benson Mayowa, spend $10 million on a good effing center right in front of Russell Wilson, and then spend a little bit more on a tackle upgrade and figure out a solution at left tackle if Dwayne Brown is going to retire, which he might. Like
Dwayne Brown is done. Yeah, Dwayne Brown looks like Walter Jones did in his last season. He's done.
It's gonna be tough, but I think it's doable. And it could be a blessing in disguise if they lose the next couple games and they get a higher pick at the top end of the second round, where you might find like a really good right tackle for the next 10 years. But commit to it. Don't willy-nilly around with it anymore. Don't, because Russ frankly deserves better. I'm just afraid that we're going to lose this quarterback, if we don't fully commit to him. And I think what he wants more than anything else is an offensive line. I think he will embrace the idea of, his strengths work best as a play action chunk play specialist quarterback. He wants to take those deep shots. The only way those deep shots are going to happen with consistency is if you run the ball. So
give him
that's
time.
those are my two wishes. That's what I wish.
And I think Russell Wilson can't mask the deficiencies of that line anymore. When he was
he's
young, he could do his little spinny pirouettes and he can make defensive ends look dumb. But he's 33 years old now or whatever. He's slowed down. He can't escape those guys anymore. Alana, what are you wishing for the Seahawks in 2022?
Well, y'all shared the article about Marshawn wanting to buy into ownership, and I think that is like item number one for me. Like having someone on the ownership team who has the ability to be the face of the franchise in a way.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you look at the Cowboys and they have Jerry Jones. We know Khan in Jacksonville. We know a wide variety of the owners across the board. Jody Allen, who for all intents and purposes is doing an all right job. Like she's just invisible, right? So if we have someone who's in the ownership group who becomes a public face for the ownership and it's Marshawn, like I fucking love it. I'm all in. Like it's great. And he's a perfect representation of who the Seahawks are. So something like that, and specifically Marshawn would be excellent to have happen. And then I want to see. I agree with Curtis about the offensive line entirely, and I want to see some investment in the secondary, like not scrap heap. Bless Austin, who again has done competently at times. And the other guy who was a UW grad.
Jones.
Thank you.
Oh,
Sidney Jones.
Sidney Jones has done all right. He's done.
Yeah, I mean they've done fine, but they're not top tier, and like they're not even third tier. They're like fourth tier, all right starters. It's okay. So give me buy in on somebody. I understand that it's a difficult defense to teach, a difficult set of criteria to teach. But if you're getting the best, they can learn it.
Yeah. I have a feeling that is why Seattle got away from that Bear defense a little bit, because that Bear defense relies on its cornerbacks, because the cornerbacks are mainly playing man, and you can be vulnerable to the big plays, which is the thing Pete Carroll cannot abide. And if they can get back to a Bear defense, then Jamal Adams might be worth what we gave up for him. Millie,
the last wish is to replace Ken Norton with a young, intelligent coordinator who is.
Good idea.
And when I say intelligent, I don't mean to denigrate Norton, but I mean somebody who's like the Sean McVay on the defensive side.
Yeah,
somebody who is all envisioning. And because I think Carroll works with the type of person like that well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Millie, what are your wishes for Seahawks 2022?
A Super Bowl.
Nah, you go.
I like that. Yeah, me too.
Why didn't I think of that?
But how do you do that? I mean, I think everything that's been said is all good ideas. All year, all season, most weeks we came back to fire Ken Norton. It's something's got to give, and I always say, I don't know nearly as much about the defensive side and how it works, and I learn a lot from listening to all of you and the research that I do for this. And what I consistently see in opinion pieces that I read and what I hear from you all is that we have some really capable defensive players who aren't being used to the best of their ability. And any team relies on the idea that you have a leader who understands what your strengths and weaknesses are and uses them to the best ability of a team. Yeah. And when I take all those nuggets and I put them together, what I hear is we are never able to consistently create that team out of these fantastic players. You're not going to have a whole top tier group of people. So you have to decide where you need the top tier and where maybe you can go a little lower. And where do you need to have more depth? because for whatever reason, these are the positions or these are the folks who, as great as they are occasionally the ones who are injury prone or a little older. Being, just having that mindset just seems to be the thing that I consistently hear is missing on the team. On the offensive side of the ball, I don't know. I mean, again, listening to all of you and the things I read, it does sound like Carroll maybe needs to give up a little of that power and really focus. And then, but I don't know what to do about Russell Wilson. I will say that the thing I consistently am yelling at the TV that the hubs will say he hears out of me every week is, Russell, stop, you're not 22.
Yeah.
Just every time you can see it about to happen and you're like, you either need to let go of the ball or you got to run, and you are no longer capable of taking off like you used to. He still has that skill and he still needs to be able to surprise the defense and have all that. And he does, but he's still not 22.
Right.
And that's where I get really stuck on my back and forth when we talk about, do we keep Pete? Do we keep Russ? Can we keep them both? Can we keep neither? I do get a little stuck on how much longer does Russell have and how much longer do I want to put up with that frustration, but then do I really want to put up with something new? Who was it last week that you said we were going to get was it the Giants quarterback?
Daniel Jones.
Like, do you really want Daniel Jones in Seattle?
He's an athletic, big arm quarterback. I mean,
that's smart quarterback. Who knows? Maybe he would be great. But there is a part of me that yearns for something new, and that wants that excitement that coming into this season, I didn't have, because I was so frustrated with all the off-season bullshit.
Yes.
And then it was promising for like a minute and all's forgiven, and then I was right back to, sometimes I just want shiny and new. So I want to see some big changes, and I want to see what we can do with it. And that's really non-specific, but it's like, you got to pick at least one. We just can't leave it like it was. Something's got to give. Something's got to move, because this isn't going to work next year any better than it did this year.
Yeah. My wish is that I want to see the power triumvirate back. I want Pete, I want John, and I want Russ. I think they make an incredibly powerful pair when they're all on the same page. And right now, it doesn't feel like they're on the same page, and haven't been for probably a few seasons.
Yeah.
The three of them need to get on the same page, and hopefully Jody is doing that, and maybe Cam Chancellor, if his tweet was any serious. I agree with Curtis. Russell Wilson is not a high volume quarterback. He never has been from even his college years. Russell Wilson is at his best when he's shrewdly efficient. Russell Wilson should never be throwing the ball more than 25 times a game. If Russell Wilson throws the ball more than 25 times a game, something went wrong in that game. Russell Wilson needs to lean on a power run game and take his chunk plays when the defense gives it to him. That's how he won those Super Bowls, and I think that's how he needs to win now. I understand that he's concerned with his legacy, and my concern with Russell Wilson is that he thinks his legacy needs to be putting up gaudy numbers like Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers and, even Tom Brady, although Tom Brady has now become just a shrewdly efficient quarterback, leaning on a run game and a strong defense.
That's what Elway did at the end of his career. Elway stopped gunning it all over the place, and that was a Mike Shanahan power run, zone run thing, and he just rode that to 2 back-to-back Super Bowls. Russ could do that.
And Russ has already built a legacy. He can add to it by winning Super Bowls, and he can win Super Bowls by leaning into some Pete Carroll football, because that Pete Carroll football accentuates what he does well. The other thing I want them to do, I want Pete to give up control to John Schneider. I think John Schneider is a better evaluator of talent. And I think that if he were to do that, we have a lot of cap space going into 2022. And instead of like getting these bargain bin former first round draft busts and all pros who are like 36 and past their prime, go out and do the hard work and scout for your next Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill. We don't need an Aaron Donald. We need a deep roster of dogs who can go, like working class dogs who could go and get it. If you have 4 guys who are capable of getting 8 sacks a season, that's fantastic. And that is how we won games back in the Legion of Boom era. So that's what I want. I don't think the Seahawks are actually that far away, despite their record, from being a contender. I think that they need to play up their strengths and then do the hard work and go find, like actually scout some people. And you can get them for, not that Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill, both of them were not huge contracts when we brought them in 2013 or whenever that was. So I think the Seahawks, and we need to solve left tackle and center, but I honestly believe that's not a lot to ask. So Jody Allen, John Schneider, Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson, if you're listening, take my advice. You might win a Super Bowl. That's all I'm saying. And if you do, just give me a little credit. That's all. Yeah. Good. Well, go Hawks. I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention the death of John Madden, who is one of the all-time great personalities in the National Football League history. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about him, what he meant to the game, what he meant to you. I love John Madden. I grew up watching John Madden, and I think I can speak for my generation that of who watched football as kids, is that John Madden was the one who taught us the X's and O's and ins and out of football, which I before he came along wasn't necessarily something color commentators were doing. John Madden breaking out his magic yellow marker and breaking down coverages and showing where that's going, and he ushered in a whole new era of commentating. I don't know John Madden as a coach very well. That was before me. I know him mostly as a color commentator and as a personality. He was an everyman. I thought he broke everything down in not simple terms, but easy to digest ways of, learning. And he taught me a lot about football just by watching him. I know, it's his whole thing of, well, the person who's going to win is the one who scores the most points. And, the one who loses is the one who's going to lose, and all those things, which is a little shticky, I think. And his sort of grandpa, dad sense of humor. But he leaves a lasting legacy, and I wanted to honor the man. Curtis, we're from the same generation. What do you think of John Madden? What did he mean to you?
Yeah, he made me a fan of football. I can remember, I'm a little bit older than you. I was probably early elementary, back in the late 70s.
When he was coaching.
And I can remember, because my dad always had football games on Sunday. And I remember being in the living room playing with my little Star Wars figurines. And the game was on, and it was the Raiders, and it was some other, I think it was in Denver, because it was like blizzardy. And I wasn't paying attention too much, but something caught my eye, and I was watching this gigantic, just behemoth dude with like mutton chops and just long hair. And he was in like short sleeves and a tie, and he was just marching up and down the sideline, barking at a ref. And my dad was like, shut the hell up, something like that. And I was just like, who is that guy? And Dad was just like, oh, it's John Madden, he's a total asshole, blah blah blah. And I just I started watching it, and that was like, I remember it being like the first time I watched a football game with like a rooting interest, because, and it was just something about the Raiders, they were just so rock and roll. It was like, the long hair, the cigarettes on the sideline,
total bullies,
the huge afros, just the whole, like, we don't give a shit. We're here's our offense, you can't stop it. Here's our defense, we're gonna crush you, sort of thing like that. And later on, a few years down the road, when I became a Seahawks fan in the early 80s, I always sort of carried a bit of that, that Raider envy with me, just because they were so, I mean, it was just total rock and roll. I mean, they were like the Rolling Stones. They just came into the town and they owned it. And I can remember thinking, and how when I saw, many years later, after the first couple seasons of Pete Carroll, when Russ came in, and I was actually at that game at the when the Patriots came to town, and it was the UMad bro sort of whole moment.
That was Russell's like the kind of
it was kind of a breakout game for Russ too.
Yeah, it was his breakout game.
Yeah, he threw that gorgeous deep ball to
Sidney Rice.
Sidney Rice, that's, right between the two defenders, and it was just electric. And it was like, I just kind of looked, I was there with my nephew, who's like a few years younger than me, and I was just turned around and I was just like, dude, this is like the Oakland Raiders. This is like Oakland Raider football. This is Oakland Raider football in Seattle. Like, I've finally been given my gift. And just for that whole chunk of time, 2012, to 2000, before the whole LOB thing dismantled and everybody, was either cut or retired because of injury. It just really felt like this was finally like the brand of football that I could really, get excited about as a Seahawk fan. And it was John Madden football.
Yeah.
And, he was just like, I don't know, he was just like this crazy sort of uncle who was just like a football junkie, and I would watch
and loved the game.
Yeah. And he was on Monday Night Football. He was on ABC, he was on, NBC, and he was on CBS. And he was a lot of fun. I remember thinking, I read this book when I was in my early 20s that I bought secondhand, called 1 Knee Equals 2 Feet, that he wrote. And it was just a really simplistic sort of breakdown of, like, not just the strategies of football, but the different philosophies that, like, he would pick out a coach of the day, like Bill Walsh, and explain like what the whole, like, the evolution of the West Coast offense and how these short passes were just like runs and all this sort of stuff. And it was just, I don't know, he just made me kind of like, when I was in my early 20s reading this book, just more of a student of the game. I started to get more fascinated by it. So it was really sad when he left the booth too, because he was just so entertaining.
I agree. And that personality just hasn't really been filled since.
Not at all.
Alana, do you have anything to say?
I hope that everyone here finds someone who looks at them the same way that John Madden looks at a turducken.
I was hoping somebody would bring that up.
I remember watching that game. I remember when he tore into that turducken, and I was watching it. I was probably 12 or something like that, and I'm just watching it, and like he just lit up. It was like an inferno on the screen of this man who had found his soulmate in a goddamn turkey duck chicken. And it was like grease everywhere. And he's like throwing it into his mouth. And I feel like what's his name? The impressionist, who they have on Fox.
Yeah.
I feel like his relationship with the turducken is not an exaggeration.
No,
and maybe that
right.
Maybe that's memory and just like this nostalgia working into it. But like he did a lot for American cuisine in that moment, and and he has a very special relationship with that bird. So I just hope everyone finds that.
Yes, look it up. Millie, have any words for the late John Madden?
I do. I got a few actually. Because I mean, what an amazing career and life. And you know, he would often talk about, what do you say? I never worked a day in my life. And not to, discount how much work it is to do all of these things, but from his perspective, he basically started his life playing football and he never stopped being part of that. To him, that was not working. And isn't that what we all aspire to, especially this group of people with their love of theater? And I think all of us, if we could, would simply do that all day, is make our art and theater and live that life where we felt like we were never working because it was just a constant joy. And he really worked at that, and he was willing to share it. It was in his voice, and that voice is just always in your head. I mean, it's in my head from being a kid, when he was in the booth. And yeah, he is that voice of football in my youth. And so I hear it. And then it moved into the video games. So as much as I don't really play Madden, I was around it enough, and the Hubs plays it all the time. So you get that voice in your head, and the quotes that are just so great. When your arm gets hit, the ball's not going to go where you want it to.
Right. Yeah. It's fantastic.
What was that? This other one I just found, which is the road to Easy Street goes through the sewer. Sure, buddy. And yeah, he did. He broke it down, and I loved it. But I was really thinking about the other things that I come to mind when I thought of John Madden, and one of them was, I remember learning as a kid that he was so afraid of flying.
Yes.
And he had the bus. And
yes.
I think about that, and it occurs to me, even though I don't think it was in that context in the time, but this was one of the first people I can think of who put their mental health way out there and said, oh, I'll do all of this, but I'm going to do it from a bus. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to accommodate me and my mental health issue. And that's not how we framed it at the time. But he was very honest about his absolute fear of flying and of claustrophobia and of heights. And I was hearing about when he first did his like trial interview, and he seemed so nervous in the booth. And it turns out he was nervous because he was up so high. He wasn't used to being up that high, looking down on the game. Like, that was making him a little shaky. And I realized that that's something that it just sort of occurred to me yesterday when I was thinking through all of the little things about John Madden that are just John Madden. He had a bus.
We just kind of take for granted.
And he went everywhere in this bus. And I remember as a kid thinking that was really cool. Especially as I got a little older, I developed a very serious fear of flying that I don't have much of anymore, but I maintain to this day a real fear of heights. And it just like with anything with mental health, it was helpful to know that you could demand accommodation, and that you could be honest about your need for it.
Yeah.
And it's not something I had really connected until he passed and I started thinking about him.
Yeah. And that bus became
just
iconic.
Important in a million different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. It became a part of him and his mythology. I thought he was a fan of the game. And just last words I wanted to share. I was trying to find what game it was, and I couldn't find anything. I didn't spend a lot of time on the internet looking for it, but I remember a game, and I don't remember who the teams were. It's either Brett Favre or Tom Brady. I can't remember. He loved them both. But it was like at the end of the game, and whomever it was, the quarterback, it was, in the last seconds, it hit the thing and it went for the touchdown and long touchdown, and it won the game. And as the color commentator, all I remember is John Madden going, "Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness." And that was like, that's just him as a fan watching football. Like he can't say anything about what happened or what the players were thinking or what the defense or offense was. He just kept shouting, "Oh my goodness." And I just thought, that's John Madden. And I thought that was fantastic. I love it. So super sad. He meant a lot to the game. And I think he's got a deep, deep legacy. Briefly, before we get into dorking, Kyle Seager just announced his retirement. So I think he might be the only Seattle Mariner other than Edgar Martinez to play their full career with the M's.
Did fastball no hitter?
Jamie Moyer.
No.
Felix Hernandez.
Felix, did he ever play for another team? Did he ever get up?
I think he was on like a minor league.
He was.
Yeah,
with the Marlins
contract thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Felix Hernandez. Let's. He was with the Orioles for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I'm not going to come here and like pretend that Kyle Seager was like the best baseball player to put on a Mariners uniform, but he was certainly one of the most, I don't even know how to put this. He meant a lot, I think. I mean, Kyle Seager is one of my favorite Seattle Mariners, and he was just a working class baseball player. He's never going to be in the Hall of Fame or anything, but he exemplified hard work and the love of the game and loyalty. There's something about Kyle Seager, and maybe it's just that, for basically the entire 2010s, Kyle Seager was a mainstay of the Seattle Mariners. So if I think of the Seattle Mariners of the 2010s, I'm going to think of Kyle Seager. But he's just one of those really good guys. And I'm just very, very thankful that the Seattle Mariners was the team that he got to play for. And that I got to build a relationship to. I don't think I'll ever forget his last game, watching on TV, where the fans were giving him the love and he's wiping his eyes. He's just a really, really, really great dude. Good for him. I'm sad that he retired, but I think he did it in his best interest, and he's going to have great life with his family. The Mariners gave him a lot of money, so good for him.
I'm really surprised he didn't sign with the Rangers to play with his brother. I'm really surprised that didn't happen. And I think that the main thing about Kyle Seager is that he's just a true professional. That was he came to the park every day. He did his job. He did it with a lot of people pressuring him to be better. And he wasn't all the time. But he was consistent. He was always there. I'm really pleased that he retired a Mariner. I think that's too. It's meaningful that he did that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Millie, you're a kind of resident baseball person.
What's that?
I said, Millie, you're our resident baseball person. What's
exactly.
on your mind?
Millie, you have any thoughts on Kyle Seager's retirement?
Yeah, I mean, I think you all covered it. I think anytime somebody spends their entire career, and especially with how well he was playing this last season.
I mean, arguably his best career his best season was his last.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a surprise. I don't think anybody saw that coming, honestly. So I it seems like it is truly a matter of a choice. For so often, you know, people, it's like, well, nobody's really offering me the money or whatever. I'm sure he could have gone somewhere if he wanted to. I'm sure he could have made a lot of choices, and in the end, what he chose was, I'm gonna go out the way I want to go out, and I'm gonna go spend time with my family, and I'm gonna root for the Mariners until I die. Like, thanks. And thanks for everything you did. And I think he probably had a huge influence on this team, and this team that we all have high hopes for, that everyone's looking at like this could be a real contender. And he's a huge part of that. And it's unfortunate that we can't keep him for another season. And so I just, nothing but respect, man. It's kind of beautiful.
Yeah, I love it. And if his lasting legacy is that he was the leader and sort of like the voice of reason, the voice of passion for this clubhouse going into 2022, man, that's awesome. Maybe the most Kyle Seager thing to have happened for that team. I know those players who are all coming back had a lot of love for him, as he did for them. Let's get into dorking. This is the end of the year. I figure this is all of us dorks. We like our TV. So at the end of the year, let's do a listicle. Your favorite TV shows of the year. I can start out. I did a top 5, and this is my top 5. I've got 2 from Apple TV. I got the TV show Mythic Quest, about by Rob McElhenney and Charlie Day and some of the folks at It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, who created a TV show about a video game company that does their universe's version of World of Warcraft. It's hilarious in the way It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is, but also has a lot of heart in the way It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia does not. And I find it's a way for these guys to sort of like get that out because It's Always Sunny will never be that show. Also on Apple TV, Ted Lasso, which I just love. The first season, the second season was brilliant. I have 2 shows on Hulu. I've got Reservation Dogs, and I also have Only Murders in the Building. And then maybe my favorite TV show of 2021, HBO's Succession, which you've heard Alana and I dork out on quite a bit on this podcast. Curtis, give me your favorite TV shows of 2021.
Ooh, definitely Reservation Dogs was my top. It was everything I wanted it to be. It was funny, it was quirky, it was very accurate with indigenous reservation life, in which I grew up around. I would say probably right after that is just the love I have for Ted Lasso. And it's really interesting how both of them sort of deal with a lot of quirk and offbeat, and yet they still sort of find these kind of poignant human moments of struggle. And I think that's a really, really interesting cocktail for me as a viewer. That will hook me in pretty easily. I loved Steve Martin and Martin Short and Salim Gomez and Only Murders in the Building. I thought that was freaking hilarious and just brilliant physical comedy from Martin at age 80 now. Like that is just, if that is not must watch TV, if any listener hasn't seen that yet, do yourself a solid and start streaming that one. Those are probably it for me. I loved in terms of like, the the escapist entertainment. I love The Mandalorian, and I really enjoyed Hawkeye.
Would you say Hawkeye is your favorite Marvel TV
I think
show?
it was. Yeah, I enjoyed each one of them, but that one stood out more for me. It's interesting how the Mandalorian and Hawkeye both deal with dad issues, and myself being a father, I find myself sort of relating to storylines. And I just streamed the first episode of Book of Boba Fett this morning, and that seems like has a lot of potential to carry forth all the things I really enjoyed in the Mandalorian. If people like spaghetti westerns and they like outer space melodrama, those are the shows for you, I think. Yeah, I enjoyed the Hackers too, the Hackers show that I was watching on HBO Max.
The Hackers show?
Hackers, no, Hacks.
Oh, Hacks.
Hacks is great. Hacks almost made my top 5. I enjoyed
Hacks was pretty hilarious. It was enjoyable.
Millie, what were your favorite TV shows?
I made quite a list, and I found myself wishing, because I'll be honest, I've started to have such a poor memory, and I consume way too much television, that and I think Alana, you might do this. I'm like, I should really start keeping a little log.
I need to create an Excel spreadsheet for myself and just start keeping track. I know.
I hit the end of the year and I see other people make these lists, and I'm like, man, what did I see? Oh, I loved something. What was it?
Here's a real good trick for that. Metacritic has a top series of the year list, or TV in 2021. It has a list of 220 shows that aired in 2021. And I just went through that list and was like, watched it, didn't watch it, watched it. And it really helped. It doesn't have everything, especially kids stuff. So I had to search my mind there, but it helped a lot. And it doesn't have a lot of the reality TV stuff either.
Well, and that's super smart. And what I'm thinking of right now, so if somebody wants to run with this, just pay me. We need a Goodreads for television.
Yep.
Oh, I
1000%.
Totally. Listen, Millie just gave somebody out there $1 million idea.
Somebody do it, because
somebody make it happen.
You could recommend it to other people. You can keep track of what shows you watched. And
there's one of those.
Did I ever finish that? Did I ever finish that?
This is what I need. You're right. $1 million idea.
I went through it. I tried to avoid stuff that was older that I just now got to, but I couldn't help myself with my number one. So I did a 10, and I'll just go through them quickly. I don't have to color on all of them. But number 10 was Shadow and Bone. I had to put something from that genre in there, especially because shout out to number one fan, Sister Amanda. We watch it together with a little Facebook Messenger video chat. We watched Shadow and Bone together. We try to do that with shows throughout the year, and this was probably my favorite that we watched together this year. I didn't know anything about Shadow and Bone, so it was all new world and characters for me, and I loved it, and I can't wait for more, which is how I decided that was my favorite of that. That was 10. Number 9, Squid Game. I think it's worth watching. It's fascinating. Number 8 for me was Mayor of Easttown. Just stellar performances, a great plot, nothing wasted. And it's short, so they didn't have time to get stupid extraneous plot lines in there. And number 7 was Castlevania, which I don't know if I ever actually did manage to put in our dorking section. I can't remember, but it's not usually my thing, but there is just some existential stuff that happens in that last season that is absolutely worth watching. Number 6, Star Trek Discovery. I'm on the most recent season right now, but the previous season that I finished earlier this year was just spectacular. Number 5, which I haven't seen on a lot of lists, is Resident Alien, Sci-Fi Channel.
Oh, is that the Alan Tudyk one?
Alan Tudyk. I mean, they're never going to give him an Emmy, and they should. The work he does in that show, the physical comedy, the voice work, all of it, and to make this character who walks the line of truly being, he is the villain. He's a bad guy, but he's experiencing humanity and emotion, and it's changing who he is. And there's certainly some allegories in there. But it's a lot of fun, and it's got a lot of very interesting actors and characters. Number 4, Ted Lasso. I experienced it with all of you. You saw me experience it from like episode 1. So for me, season 1 and 2 are just one long season, and it was just brilliant and funny and everything I needed in my life. My final 3 are just, I could interchange them depending on the day of the week, but number 3 for me was WandaVision.
Yeah, I love that.
Talk about it. It's a meditation on grief that is just so beautifully done without dwelling in the grief, and instead understanding how we try to expand ourselves beyond grief and love. And it's, if you think about it a lot, it's spectacular in ways you just don't think about when you're actually watching it.
Yeah,
and I think
she's going to be in the next Doctor Strange.
It's really special television to be able to do that, especially with a science fiction show. Yeah. Like, it blows my mind. Number 2 for me, Only Murders in the Building. I love that I got to basically experience that show with you dorks. So on top of the fact it is absolutely one of the best things I saw all year, it will always have a special place in my heart because we shared it. And meant a lot. And number 1 for me, I've talked about it on here before, is Flight Attendant. Same thing. You get to the end and you think back over this journey, and it's really a 2020 show, but I got it this year. And same thing. You look back and you realize this journey and all of these different things that you were actually going through during the course of this television show, which is this mishmash of drama and spy caper and you know, this wonderful woman who's finding herself and figuring out who she is. That one for me, I decided in the end was my number 1, and it's from 2020. So I'm cheating, but that's my list as fast as I could give it.
I like it. I want it.
Well, I'm really curious how season 2 of that's going to be, because I really liked season 1, but it felt totally complete in such a way that I feel like a season 2 might just fall flat on its face. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen. Anyway, my list. Okay, so I have 4 series that were on HBO or HBO Max. I have 3 that were on Hulu, and then 1 each for Disney Plus, Peacock, and Apple TV. I have a couple of honorable mentions too that I'll just shout out real quick. For me, the second best Marvel show was Hit Monkey for the year. I highly recommend watching that. It's lovely. I would have put Inside on this list by Bo Burnham, but it's not a series, so I didn't think it fit. Expanse.
Inside was one of mine too, but it's for the same reason as you, it wasn't a TV show.
Right. Expanse season 5, which started in 2020, aired 3 episodes, and then aired the rest in 2021. I didn't think it was reasonable to include that on this list, but I made a different choice than Millie, and we all make our choices that we want to make. And then Hacks and Love Life from HBO Max, two series that are just centered around tremendous performances, and were really great. And then the one that I wanted to include, there's a series on TikTok called My Telepathic Mother, where it's 66 episodes. There's one character who's playing probably up to 55 characters. She does a different accent for each of these characters, and fully builds them into complete human beings. And it's wonderful. And I highly recommend My Telepathic Mother. Seek it out, find it, spend an hour, watch them all. It's great. So my actual list. Number 10 is Sort of, which is one of 2 on this list that are really about, my identity. It's about a non-binary, I'm not non-binary, but it's about a non-binary nanny who is Pakistani, who is dealing with the kind of injury of the person that they nanny for, and kind of dealing with this early life crisis. They're in their 25 or so. I watched the whole season in one sitting. It's 6 episodes. It's wonderful. it's warm, it's funny, and it's queer content without the main focus of it being queer. We Are Here, which is a spinoff from RuPaul's Drag Race. I don't like RuPaul's Drag Race. This is about 3 drag queens come to a town and put on a drag show, and it's beautiful. And I cried in every single episode. And they did an episode in Evansville, Indiana, where I went to college, that was just like tremendously like heartwarming for me. My favorite, this is number 8. My favorite Disney Plus series was Loki. I just thought the Doctor Who-ness of it all served that world really well. I thought that the woman who played Sylvie was phenomenal. I thought that all the choices were super creative and interesting, and it was my favorite of the Disney Plus Marvel shows. I can't wait for season 2. My kid is tremendously excited about season 2. Only Murders in the Building is number 7. I loved it. Much like all of you, I loved sharing it with you. The episode with the deaf actor was truly stunning TV, and I want more of that type of thing. This is my weird one, Station 11. It comes from the coaching tree of Damon Lindelof. So it's where it's Patrick Somerville, I think is his name, is the showrunner of it. It's based on the book by Emily St. John Mandel. And it is about a pandemic, but it is told in a way that is warm and hopeful. And the main content of it, the center, the backbone of it is that art is important and survival requires artists. And it's not done in a really like pretentious way. It's beautiful. I think you all should watch it. I loved it, and it doesn't feel like
it's ended up on a lot of top lists.
It's tremendous.
Yeah.
This last
I'm 3 episodes in, so I couldn't put it on my list yet, but I am really enjoying it.
Yeah. Episode 5 is like big time beautiful and shocking at the same time. Number 5 is Dope Sick. The performances in that were phenomenal across the board, especially in like some of the smaller parts. The guy that played Betts' dad in it, who is just a really well-known character actor named Ray McKinnon, I think. He's brilliant. And then Michael Keaton is brilliant. Caitlin, I can't remember her last name, Devers, who plays Betts, is brilliant. It's a wonderfully acted show, and I loved it. Number 4 is The Great, which is about Catherine the Great, and it is told in this really anachronistic, comedic, like everything's
watching that show and digging it.
It's so good. Everything smells like shit throughout the whole castle, and Nicholas Hoult is in it. It's wonderful. It's great. Watch it. Number 3 is Succession. You heard Daniel and I talk about that a lot. The writing on that show is impeccable. Number 2, this was the one that I surprised myself with because of how much I've still been thinking about it, and I haven't seen it. I've seen it on some lists, but I haven't seen it on a lot of lists. We Are Lady Parts on Peacock. It is about a Muslim punk band formed in London, and it has original music for it, and it's just about these 5 Muslim women who are representing their identity and their religion in very different ways. And it is funny, and it is insightful, and it is a peek into a world that I don't feel like we get to see. And there's a season 2 coming. It's worth the price of Peacock. It's great. And then my number 1 series was For All Mankind, season 2. The ability to juggle the number of storylines that are in that season and have them all culminate in a series of moments in the way that season did was truly stunning and had me weeping. It was a season finale that I thought about this, keeping in mind that this aired at the very start of the year. I think it was done by April. I've still thought about that season finale almost every day since. I'm supremely excited for the next season, and I think that it's going to end up being some kind of prequel to Star Trek. I think that Like,
interesting.
they're planning 7 seasons. It started in the 60s, and then they did 60s to 70s. Season 2 was in the 80s. Season 3 is going to be in the 90s. The tease for season 3 at the end of season 2 is just like, ugh. And then they're going to go, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, and then I think we'll get a season in the 2030s and a season in the 2040s, if I'm not mistaken. And it's meant to be alternate history. What if the Russians landed on the moon first, and then how would America respond to that? And it would likely mean that we never lose interest in the space race. And how does that go? So I feel like it could be like, oh my goodness, we're gonna go, and then it's like, oh, this was a Star Trek prequel the whole time.
I'm into it.
So, yeah, highly recommend.
That's awesome. All right. Well,
what was the name of that one again?
For All Mankind. It's on Apple TV.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna check that one out.
Apple TV putting out really great content this year.
Mm-hmm.
Just really, really great content. There's some TV shows on Apple TV that didn't make my list, but that are truly wonderful. I really enjoyed watching.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to see what they come out with next, because I think they're really onto something.
They've got the guys who made Lego Movie and 21 Jump Street, and I can't fucking remember their names right now. But they're and they made the Spider-Man movie, the newest one that won on the Oscar. I'm blanking, but they have a Rashomon style show coming out called The After Party that's got everybody in it, and it's on Apple TV. Check it out, just The After Party. It looks great.
All right, I'll have to do that. Yeah, Apple TV, good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We've really enjoyed sharing this podcast with you in 2021, and I think we're even more excited to start sharing it with you in 2022. Check out Curtis's blog, 12life.com. Always good content on there. Hit the plus on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you're getting those podcasts. Follow us. Once again, my name is Daniel. For Alana, Millie, Curtis, the rest of 12s, saying goodbye, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Hawks.
Go Hawks.